Hello and welcome, friend. My name is Tricia, and I recently ended my marriage of 18 years. As a newly single, middle aged person in a small Midwestern community, I found myself adrift, unsure of what to do with all of the time and energy now much more freely available to me. And these questions kept popping into the back of my mind whenever I was conversing with friends and family. But what they all boiled down to is this: how do you single? So I decided to start asking people to share the gems of wisdom they've gained along their journeys. My guest for this episode is Ruth Butler, one of my oldest and best friends. Ruth is a person I've always admired and respected, and that admiration hasn't dimmed over the years. We both grew up with similar backgrounds, which you'll hear a little bit about in this episode. And I keep thinking how funny it is that two people can grow into adulthood quite independently, even in non adjacent states, and believe completely differently about the world 20 years later, yet be still resonant after all this time. Anyway, you'll discover some of that along the way. Let's get to it. I would love for you to just tell us your story.
I'm going to do some little highlights to kind of tell a little bit more of what qualifies me to be on this podcast because at the moment I am very happily married
Yay.
and really treasure my partner. However, in my teens, went through a lot of conditioning that said that like dating was bad. And so in my 20s, I had to like work against that conditioning. But I also didn't have the skills when I first started dating and even into my mid late 20s to even recognize what I needed from an individual. And then in, I think around 2010, I got into a relationship that was actually really pretty good for me and I valued a lot. Closer to the end of the relationship, I started seeing where I wasn't valued. And so when that person broke up with me, I was like, I'm going to be single for a while and figure out what I really actually do need from a relationship and what I want to see in a relationship, and really like kind of take some time to reflect on myself and know who I am. And then I was single for about 7, 8 years, and it was only after that time that I met my now spouse.
I appreciate that. Thank you for sharing. We share similar backgrounds, of course, in the whole
Mhm.
like I kiss dating goodbye realm, which really didn't serve us
Yeah,
when we started dating.
really did it.
I mean, we just didn't know, like, to question it at the time, like, it was like, "Well,
Oh my
this is what we
gosh,
do,
no.
this is who we are, this is how we live,"
This is
and then
culturally how things are in the culture that we were in, like the microculture that
yes.
we grew up in.
Yes, and it's just like it's easy, you just, somebody likes you, and then they ask your dad if they can court you or whatever, and
And then that obviously leads directly to marriage, which is going to be perfect
and
and
happy for the rest of your
wonderful.
life, and
Well, that clearly didn't happen because I didn't even meet the person that I ended up marrying until I was 42.
the answer to life, the universe, and everything.
I know, it was actually perfect timing as that goes.
I love that. So, could you tell us during your single time, what were some of your sort of working day, like weekday routines, rituals, practices?
Well, the first couple of years, it was kind of easy to ignore the fact that I was single because I had also just started nursing school
Mm,
and I had a full-time job and a part-time job.
oh my word.
Yeah. So I just was so busy, I didn't have to notice being
Mm,
alone. But I went to community college for like my first year doing all of the like general studies prerequisites, which saved me probably $20,000.
great. Nice.
Yeah.
That's
But
a chunk of
when it
change.
came time to transfer to a university to get my bachelor's, I also had two roommates at the time. The university was about a little over an hour's drive away, except for they were doing construction. So sometimes it was a 2 hour drive away.
You.
And I didn't have time for that. And so I moved into an apartment by myself and I was alone
Mm-hmm.
because I was in a city where I didn't know people. My former roommates were, again, and 1 to 2 hours away.
Wow.
and I was in a new school. So the singlehood sort of became much more obvious. Um, at first, there were definitely some lonely nights and some nights of some days where I just felt the struggle, and that was a time where I could really spend on some self reflection and thinking about who I was
Mm.
or am or am becoming
Yeah.
because I'm still growing as a person. But I also started thinking about, okay, what can I do to enjoy this moment in my life? And so I like to hike and be outside. So I found like a list of state parks and decided to try to go to all of them.
Oh my gosh.
There are 50 some.
Oh
I
boy.
haven't actually made it to all of them.
Uh-huh.
I think I've hit 38, 37,
Wow.
somewhere there. So that was one thing that I did. I did a lot of hiking. And that also helped me with just overall like general physical fitness. It being outside helps me to build in some time to reflect. It was quiet. I wasn't like hooked to a phone screen or a computer, and it was just me and my thoughts,
Yeah.
it was really helpful, but also helped develop like a sense of inner peace. And then hiking and being alone and having time to reflect on yourself and develop your inner world is so valuable and so very necessary. But you also need social connection.
Right? I think you and I are similar in that, like, we're both kind of ambiverts. Like, we can gain
Hmm.
energy from, like, being with people and having that, but, like, also we need, like, downtime and, like, solitude as well
Yes,
to, like,
so much.
recharge as well. Yeah.
Yes, yes, very definitely.
So, yeah,
So
so what were some of your ways of, like, cultivating connection and, like, when you needed the people time?
I mean, I did some of the things that you try to do. I tried to make social connections at work and developed friendships that way. But I also started looking for ways to socially connect within the town that I was in. And it's harder now than it was when I was in my 20s because we would get like a little free newspaper and it would have city events in it.
Mhm.
People would be like, oh, there's a trivia night. Oh, there's this. And then it was a little harder to find that sort of thing um, just organically.
Yeah.
So I joined the app Meetup,
Mhm.
and Meetup kind of it wants you to just name your interests, and then I'll suggest things based on your interests. Only like one of the things I enjoy doing is knitting, and I tried to go to a knitting group,
Yeah.
and I found a bunch of people that I really didn't connect with in any level.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, it was very
Yeah.
strange.
Did you have some good experiences with
Yeah.
reaching out to those sorts of groups?
One of the groups that I did find on Meetup was an Instagram group, and it was a group that would go and tour various interesting sites around the city and had members that there was a little bit of like social clout.
Mm, nice.
um, so that we could get into places that we might not, like as an individual, we certainly wouldn't be allowed to go into.
Very
Yeah, it
exciting.
was really fun. And then sometimes we just meet up at parks. And the goal was to, obviously, it's Instagram, so take pictures. But as you're taking pictures, you're learning more about photography, but you're also just walking around beautiful places with people who are also interested in taking pictures. And
And
I
making something
really,
pretty.
yes.
Yeah.
And partly because I think it was social media, there was a pretty diverse age group and just a diverse crowd.
Yeah. That's really fun.
Straight people, gay people, people of various different races,
Yeah.
college educated, worked in convenience store,
Mm,
whatever. You
mhm.
would meet all
Yeah.
these different people. And so, kind of that alchemy of all of those different things coming together just really made a very interesting group. And
Really cool.
everybody was pretty supportive, and you'd like find little groups splitting off and going to get drinks or dinner together
Oh.
or these kind of things. And so that was a really great connection.
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time. I would go to their meetups as often as I could. And the meetups were about once a month, and I went to those pretty consistently for 3 years. So
I love
it was a
that.
great group.
Meanwhile, like, had you been in a relationship during that time,
Oh
like,
my gosh,
how
I would
much
not
more
have had
stressful, yeah, like, would that have been? Like, because you wouldn't have had the time for,
any
all
of
of that. Yeah.
exactly. And then while I was in school, I also met some friends in those classes, some other women who were closer to my age than
Mhm.
most of my classmates.
Sure.
And we became pretty good friends, and we would also do things together. Um, one of our local museums would have night things that happened. Like one of my favorite events was science night.
Well, that's fun.
Yeah, and you got to learn all kinds of interesting things. And one of the most interesting things that I remember doing was Woodford Reserve came out and talked about like the science of brewing and distilling wines and whiskeys.
Oh, that's fun.
And then we also got to do a tasting.
Oh, lovely.
It was a great time, but the
Yeah.
lecture portion was just so interesting. We all walked away going, I did not expect that much from that session.
Yeah. That's really cool. So it's like
Yeah.
educational, but it's also fun and, like, community connecting and yeah,
Hmm.
a little bit
Hmm.
of that's really awesome. It sounds like there are a lot of, like, really positive experiences. Could you just distill down for us some of the best parts of being single?
One of my favorite things was coming home to my empty apartment that no one had touched or rearranged or done something terrible to, or like eat the trash.
Ate the
Dog,
trash. Ugh,
dog.
what a dog thing to do.
Yes, when I had gone. Like, I just loved that coming home and to my peaceful apartment. I loved not trying to find, nobody had to agree with me on what to do.
You
I
just
could decide if I was going to go do something, and I could just decide not to do something if I didn't feel like it.
yeah.
Something that we had talked about earlier while talking about doing this interview is I took some of that time to learn to cook new cuisines.
Mm.
So I could make some pretty terrible food, and I was the only one that had to suffer through it.
Right. I did that just last night. It was basically a camp like, it was like a campground food, but
But it didn't go well, is what you're
no, I
saying.
mean, it was tasty. It was just it could have been yeah. Please
Fair
tell me
enough.
about the nice cuisines that you learned about.
Well, I'd always been a little bit curious about Japanese cooking, so I worked on learning to do that. But like it has a sort of a different flavor profile, flavor balance than we're used to with like our more Western European based diet, and like a sweet, salt, savory.
Yeah.
And getting that flavor profile right involved getting that flavor profile wrong. So I had like,
Oh boy.
I don't know.
Did you have to
I had
throw
some
out
things
food?
where it was like a noodle dish that was like just too sugary and it was gross. Like it was just wrong.
Yeah.
Nobody wants sugary fish, guys.
No,
It's
really
terrible.
nope. Not in any way.
Nope. Yeah, it was inedible. It could not be rescued.
Yeah, that's like some of my only like food that I've ever had to throw out was like my first pho, my very first
Oh,
pho that I made. And I made
hmm,
way too much and oh
oh
my
my gosh,
lord.
yes,
It
because
was
the recipes are family sized broth.
yeah, and I just ended up throwing it all out. It was completely inedible.
Hmm.
But you have to fail sometimes before you can get it
Right.
right.
You fail your way to success.
Yeah, I really love that. And now you have the flavor profile, and now you can make Japanese food anytime you want.
Yeah, and I do quite a lot, and I love to make, like, from scratch ramen. I do it a couple of times a year now
Well, I love
because
that.
it's so good.
Yeah, that sounds really tasty. That sounds like some really good like self-care practice too.
Mhm,
So swapping topics.
mhm,
You did mention there were times, like, especially when you got into that new apartment for the first time,
mhm.
and you had just, like, a bit more space and time to reflect, and that there were, like, lonely times, or maybe that's I don't know. Everybody can experience loneliness whether you're alone, right, or
Oh, absolutely,
with
I felt
somebody,
lonely in a crowd,
for
you
sure.
know, because
So yeah. No, go ahead.
you don't have connections,
Yeah.
and if you don't have connections, it doesn't matter how many people are around you, you're gonna be lonely.
Mhm. Can you tell us about a time that you experienced loneliness and like what were your sort of go-to thoughts or activities or like sort of ways to care for yourself and move through that time?
Um, when you said more space, one of the things that came to mind right away was When I moved in more space, I had been living with my same roommates for the past 7 years,
Wow.
and we had a very comfortable relationship with each other, but I didn't have a lot of furniture. So I moved into a one-bedroom apartment. Like, it's not a huge space, but it was empty.
Yeah, and that can feel massive.
Yeah. And especially when you're alone, it feels so hollow. So that was a little bit of a struggle. Part of what I did at first was just try to, if I felt like too lonely or if it was too empty, just try to imagine what I was going to do with the space, how it was going to look when it was mine.
I love that.
I would just try to distract myself in some way. So hiking was a good one for that. But, when it's late at night, that's not exactly
Yeah,
gonna happen.
right? The park is closed, so
Yeah. And I
mm,
didn't want to turn to like unhealthy habits. So,
yes.
like eating ice cream or going to a bar
Yeah.
or any of those like developing habits that were going to cause me harm later in life or even harm right then. Self harm was not what I was interested in.
Yep.
So it was really, what can I do that's healthy, that's self care? Also, I quit smoking about a year before I did this. Smoking would have been easy,
Right.
but that was again, self harm was not the goal. So a lot of times I'd just get a cup of tea and kind of sit down and on the floor because I didn't have any chairs
Oh my goodness.
or on my bed because no, wait, hang on. I had a mattress,
Uh-huh.
but I didn't have a bed frame.
Okay.
And also the mattress was not in great shape.
So you were also kinda camping out a bit at the beginning.
Kind of a lot, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I had like a ton of books, but no bookshelves. Or I did have like maybe one bookshelf, but it was really, again, in terrible shape. And then one day I went to IKEA and spent like $3,000.
You filled it up. You had imagined all of this the space,
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah.
figured out what you wanted in there.
Yes. And
I
what I
love
wanted, number one, was the bookshelves.
Yeah.
And number two was a chair.
Mhm. To sit and enjoy your tea in.
Yes,
Oh,
exactly. So then I had one chair for a while.
yeah.
But it was a comfy chair. It was one of their Poang chairs that it's like bent wood and it kind of rocks.
Oh, nice.
And it also, I bought the ottoman so I could put my feet up and rock in this chair and
Perfect.
tuck myself in and be cozy.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
was very cute.
I also have, like I call my IKEA chair my Strandbun chair. Like,
Hmm.
it's like, that's its name. So of course, yeah.
Obviously.
I really like that you were talking about, like, you were leaning into, like, self-care and, like, really being
Hmm.
intentional about not doing things that would make you feel worse, sort of in the long
Hmm.
run or even in the short run.
Hmm. You know what? Another thing I learned to do was make my own bath salts.
Ooh.
So then I had to test them, obviously, with
Oh,
a hot
yeah.
bath.
A lot of experimentation and testing needs to happen if you're making bath salts.
Right, clearly, and not the drug kind, the kind that you actually
Yeah,
put in hot water and relax and
and
enjoy
soak
yourself.
in. I love that. I'm just envisioning you with let's see, a book, some tea, a tub, bath salts. Oh, not a book, piles of books
And that's
on
a
the
pretty
floor.
accurate picture.
No, that this seems like a really, like, nice little, like, self-care moment to pull yourself out of, like, the
What
challenging times.
Mhm, mhm.
I really love that.
Yeah, and the toilet was right next to the tub, so I would put, like, a little tray on the toilet and then have that for, like, my
Toilet side table or no,
tub side table.
yeah,
I was like, "What's the word? I want bedside, but not bedside,
tub
bath
side
side,
table.
tub side?" Yes.
Yes.
Yes, often with tea.
That's perfect. So you'd have your teapot on the toilet pot?
Not quite, but I would have a mug of tea
Yeah.
with me.
All right. So we're going to put our thinking caps on here for a moment. Mine is a pirate hat with a very long feather.
Lovely, I love this.
You can have a thinking cap too if you want to.
Probably my, Alice in Wonderland themed hat that's with feathers. It has 3 feathers.
I love that. Okay, so we've got our thinking caps on. We're going to go back in time and
Mhm.
visit some former self of yours in one of those hard, like lonely times. Is there something that you would want to say or share with that past self?
You don't need anyone. You are complete and whole within yourself. And that's actually, I told my spouse this last week. I don't need you
In the most loving way.
in the most loving possible way. And I said, I want you. I
Yeah.
choose you.
Yeah.
Enjoy you. That to me is a sort of freedom and a sort of joy in the relationship because I'm not dependent on my spouse for my own happiness. And so knowing that I am a whole person who is 100% happy by myself is just so valuable to me. And that also, like I did over time, come to just really value my single life. I loved going home to my apartment. It was my own space. It beautifully reflected my taste and the things that I chose. I picked up some antiques over time. I got a sofa that was super comfy that converted to a bed so I could have friends stay the night if they wanted to
That was
without
me.
staying. Yes, including the friend.
Yep.
I got a dining room table that I loved that could expand out to seat like 10 people if I
Oh
wanted to
my.
have people over for dinner.
Yeah.
I eventually got 8 bookshelves and filled them all.
Oh my goodness.
It was a problem. It's still a problem. Let's not lie.
I mean, a problem sounds like a solution to me, actually.
Some people call it hoarding, but it's not hoarding if it's books.
It's definitely not. No, yeah. It's collecting if it's books.
Right, exactly. And they're very organized collections.
I just moved into my apartment this week and I'm already I'm just like, it's so beautiful and it's so cozy and it's my space and I picked all of these things that are in here.
There's such a joy in looking around and knowing that this is yours. So where I was going with that and like loving my apartment and loving my life and loving my friendships and having such joy is that when I knew that I was absolutely 100% enough all by myself. One, I said to everybody that I was going to start dating once I finished college, and I finished college and just didn't want to give it up.
Yeah,
So I didn't start dating for another like 2.5 years
that's great.
because I just loved it.
Yeah.
And it was like when I was ready. But the other thing is that I made myself so happy. I was so happy in and of myself that the bar was that anybody I dated had to clear was they had to make me happier than I made myself.
Mm,
And that's a pretty high bar.
that's a very high bar.
When you're so happy you don't even want to date, like
Yeah,
that's a real high bar.
right?
Yeah.
But
And
then like
so,
you start dating and
and it was like, well, it was great having a conversation with you. And there were people that like I dated and like really had a really great time with, but we were not the right people for each other. But I'm actually still really good friends with a couple of those people.
yeah.
But it also meant, I wasn't going to settle for anything less than amazing.
Also, I love that you can just be like, "Hello, my person. I adore being with you and I treasure you."
Yes,
And also, like, I choose to be with you.
I 100% choose.
Yeah.
Like,
Not
there's
because I
no,
need you and like you have to fill this hole in me or something.
right, there's no void.
Yeah.
You don't complete me.
Yeah.
To turn a quote
Yep.
from a movie on its head.
Yeah. It's that part of the story is always like the part of the story that everybody tells. It's in the songs, it's in the movies.
Hmm, hmm.
Like
You have to like find your own joy.
yeah.
And I think everybody, whether they're single or not, needs to know how to be whole and complete and uh, thrive
And that
within themselves
yeah.
on their own. I mean, that's, my opinion, partly from being single for so long.
Yeah.
But
Slightly biased, but you know what? That's okay. There are
but
plenty of cultural biases in the other direction. I think it's okay if we can be a little bit biased here. Okay, are there any sort of thoughts or tips that you'd like to leave with, especially maybe our newly solo listeners as they, begin to build and create their lives?
like I think some of the biggest things for me were kind of trying to figure out what things I had been interested in that I had set aside because they weren't compatible with whoever I was with at the time
Mm.
or where I lived or whatever. And just kind of maybe make a list and explore those. And, you can revisit the list and go, well, this thing has been on the list for 4 years and I still haven't done it. I feel like Probably never gonna do it. Maybe I'm not as interested in this as I thought I was.
Yeah.
But also be open to doing things that you're not necessarily comfortable with. Like going out and meeting a group of strangers in a park to take pictures.
For instance.
Right? Like it's like I didn't know any of these people when I walked in and there's like 30 or 40 people there and it felt very
Scary.
intimidating.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then it turned out that like at least 10 of the other people were also it was their first time and we were
Mm.
all scared.
Yeah.
And so, it turned out that that was fine. It was a good way to socially connect, to just go out there and take a leap of faith.
Yeah. I feel like you can't just sit in the comfortable. Like, yes, you need that at at some points in your life, you need to
Mhm,
like be in the comfortable and sit in the comfort and just care for
mhm,
yourself. But like,
mhm.
you also can't grow if you don't do a little bit scary things sometimes.
Well, one of the things that I did do, and it was fun, I did make a friend around my age in the area, and we tried to get together at least once a month and go to a new restaurant every single time.
Well, that's fun.
It was really fun because we got to explore all these new cuisines, and every once in a while we'd be like, "Can we just go back to this one restaurant?" Because it
Yep.
was good.
Yep. Well, you get to make up your own rules, right?
Right, yeah,
Yep.
and so there were a couple of restaurants that we just hit on repeat
Yeah.
a few times, but for the most part, we got to go to a lot of different places, and it challenged us to, again, try new cuisines.
I can see a variation of that even in my small town of like going
Mhm.
to, because maybe there's not a new place to try every time, but
Maybe I'm going to go try a dish I haven't tried before,
yeah, exactly. I really like
or
that.
maybe I'm gonna go see a band I haven't seen before at the pub.
Mhm. Yeah, and we are really lucky to have a lot of live music around here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I really like that. Thank you so much, Ruth. This has been so enlightening and helpful.
Yeah, thank you.
I hope that you were able to glean some gems from our conversation and will join me next time for a new guest. Please like and subscribe to hear more, share with friends far and wide, and feel free to text me questions or any thoughts. I'm grateful for you and look forward to connecting. Sending lots of love your way. If you liked what you heard today and are interested in expanding your perspective on living solo, I highly recommend the Solo Podcast by Dr. Peter McGraw. How Do You Single is produced, edited, and designed by me, Tricia Blosser. Special thanks to my guest, Ruth Butler.